I started to make my own kombucha, and I thought I would sort of walk you through the process because I make one that is very different, I think, than most of the kombuchas you can buy in stores. It's very delicious, it's fantastic, and it's easy to make at home with just a few ingredients. So kombucha is a soured and lightly fermented drink traditionally made from a sweet tea. First you need a SCOBY. Once you buy one, you can nurture it and keep it around for a long time, and it will actually grow and produce more if you need more. Now, most kombucha is traditionally made with tea, sugared tea, that the SCOBY is added to. The yeast in the SCOBY first converts the sugar to ethanol, which is alcohol, and then the bacteria converts the ethanol to acetic acid and gluconic acid and a couple other acids, which are all really healthy for you, actually. And so that's the entire process. It's converting sugars to ethanol and then ethanol to acid, to different acids. And that gives kombucha its sort of vinegary, kind of sour taste, which can be managed very well if you make it by yourself. You can have it be more or less sweet, more or less sour. You can kind of draw the line where you think it's most delicious. So, kombucha is traditionally made with sweetened tea. I think that's the most boring type of kombucha, actually. The flavor of the tea tends to fade and the vinegar flavor really takes over. So if you've had store-bought kombucha, it just tastes sort of like kind of vinegar water to you. That might be because it was grown on tea. And so there are much more interesting options for making kombucha. One that I like is to use juice. So this is an organic apple juice. 2 liters of this in a large container, like this. Let it set for 7 to 10 days. You start tasting it after a few days and see what you like. And you've got homemade kombucha. There are a few steps after you make it in the open mouth glass jar like this. You can bottle it and it will become carbonated because it will continue to do that conversion process. And the CO2 gas trapped in the kombucha will carbonate the kombucha naturally. So it makes a beautiful carbonated beverage. I use an apple juice kombucha as a base because it has a really nice, kind of beautiful, rich flavor. And then you can add flavors on top of that. So I'll blitz in some berries with this. I'll blitz in herbs like rosemary or mint. And then you can also add something like matcha powder and blend that in with this. So you'll see that in the second phase when I do that. You can also cook with kombucha. If you leave it to ferment for a long time, it will turn into a kombucha vinegar, and you can use that vinegar in cooking. You can also reduce a sweetened kombucha into a syrup that has a sort of soury, sweet flavor that's really fantastic on pancakes or other things. So when you put your kombucha into the jar of juice or whatever liquid you're using, it might sink down to the bottom, and that might be worrisome because some people say that the kombucha will float on the top of the jar. I don't know if we can find mine in here. It's lost inside the jar. Do see it from time to time. It's floating near the bottom, but it's been a few days and I think it's fine. It's producing what is called follicular growth on the top, which is this kind of gelatinous looking thing on top. Some people say that's a new SCOBY. I don't think it's actually a SCOBY, but it shows that the fermentation is happening correctly. So this is what the kombucha looks like after 8 days of fermenting. You can see there's a lot of bubbles on top. That's from the CO2 released as part of the fermentation process. This one's really foamy on top. It's very carbonated already, even though it's not even sealed on top. It's got quite a bit of carbonation on it. Now that the first fermentation is complete, I can move on to the second fermentation, which is a fun step because this is when you get to add more flavors to the ferment. So I started with just an apple juice kombucha, literally apple juice and the SCOBY in here for 8 days, as I said. Now we can layer in some interesting flavor. So I've got here rosemary, which I've washed some here. And I bought a bunch of mint. So I've washed some mint here. I'm going to blend up the rosemary and the mint with the apple kombucha and make sort of a very green flavored kombucha tonic. So at this step of the process, I take the kombucha out of a fermentation jar and I take the SCOBY out. I don't use gloves, but of course I wash my hands very well. The SCOBY doesn't mind the human touch. It's already a collection of bacteria and yeast, so that's not a problem. Good amount of it. You can see how bubbly that is on top. And then I'm gonna blend in some herbs with that. So these are the freshly bottled kombuchas. This is the blueberry. You can see quite a bit of foam still there on top. And this is the rosemary mint. They both look amazing. So now we'll taste some of the kombucha I made. I opened this one actually yesterday and started drinking it with my wife. It's amazing. It's only been in second fermentation for about 3 days, which is kind of on the low side. I think you can definitely, this one could go for a little bit longer. It still has a bit of sweetness in it. I like the balance of it now, but it will sit in the fridge for a week or two and just only get better at this point. So this is the blueberry apple kombucha. Try a little bit of this. It's beautiful. It looks like a rosé wine. I'll show you if you can see that. Just incredible. Give it a taste. Oh, that is so good. Has all these fruity flavors and the punch of the acetic acid and a tiny bit of sugar still lingering in the background. It's just amazing, amazingly delicious. Okay, now let's try the second kombucha. This is the apple mint rosemary. So I got quite a bit of mint in here. I did try this the other day too, and the mint is really strong. It tastes like a mojito, really. You can't really taste the rosemary much, so I think next time I'd put, maybe if I wanted that rosemary flavor to come through more, I'd put more in and either cut the mint completely or cut way back on the mint. Try a little bit of this one. Cheers. Before I even drink it, I can just smell the mint, the fresh mint smell in there. It's really incredible. This on ice in the summer, oh, would be incredible. So these are the two kombuchas, already about half consumed, but fantastic project. I'm gonna continue to make more kombucha with apple juice. So this is my SCOBY hotel, where I've got 2 SCOBYs plus the one that was created when I made the last batch of apple kombucha. I just bought more fresh apple juice. This is the fall in Northern Europe. There's fresh apple juice, local fresh apple juice, organic, everywhere in the stores. So I bought 3 liters of that. I'm gonna make another batch, a sort of base of apple kombucha, and then layer on some flavors for the second fermentation. But you know, they say that kombucha was designed, that the SCOBY was designed to grow on the substrate of, you know, sweet tea. It does incredibly well with the juice too. There's so much natural sugar in juice and so many other organisms that make the juice alive, really, that this, I don't know if you can see here, but this thing is foaming up like crazy. It's just full of activity. Just a really, really busy world happening in there. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and cheers.